My brother, right on schedule.
Hey Dave, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm great, John. Giving you a safe, virtual, socially distanced hug and high five, my dear brother. How you?
I'm all right. I'm good. Doing a lot of interviews, talking a lot about this thing that's going on. It's getting to be it's very big subject. Things people seem to be really latching on to this thing.
Nah, well, it's nice to do something good. You've always had a big heart, and
Thanks,
with
man.
so many people in trouble, brother, you're quite welcome. It's a good time to, try to spread some love and to do the right thing. So
Yeah, you got it.
none of it is a surprise coming from you.
Well, we try, and it's being home during this COVID period has given us a chance to really reflect and look outside ourselves a little bit more. And when we realized how desperate the food insecurity situation in America is and was and is getting worse, by the way. My wife and I just really felt like we wanted to do more. We didn't know exactly what to do at first. And we realized that if we could put together a song festival and then partner with feedingamerica.org, that maybe we could help. And it really, it started as a very small grassroots type idea and has really blown up. And a lot of people are really jumping on board. And I think it's going to be really successful. And regardless of how much money we make for Feeding America, at least it's going to create a lot of awareness.
Yeah, and you're putting a good exactly. I mean, there's so many good things about that. So first and foremost, a gigantic aloha, mahalo, hugs, high fives, everything in a socially distanced way. It's so great to have you back on the show, John. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, Dave, it's becoming a kind of an annual thing, which is great, and I hope we can. We've been trying to get back to Hawaii for so long now, and from what I understand, we're now got some November dates. So hopefully, we're going to get there and make it happen in November.
We're keeping our fingers crossed. And right now, however, you're part of this series we're doing off the road. We've been connecting with artists around the world during the pandemic to hear how they've been touched by the crisis, what they're up to, sharing some feel-good stories, sometimes some live music. And everything is also designed to inspire folks. You've got a really inspiring story we're going to hear about in a moment. But first, where are you now, John? And is this where you've been since the pandemic started?
Nashville, Tennessee. We did make a trip out to Colorado this past summer, but that's it. We have not gone anywhere.
Okay. So you were so when everything, take us back and share the story of like when it first started and it began to affect stuff. In fact, we had ironically had just done a phoner, you and I, to talk about the upcoming Hall & Oates return to Hawaii that had been scheduled for last year. But take us back to when you first became aware of the pandemic and how it first impacted you, John, both personally and professionally.
Well, it was really hard to process the fact that nothing was going to happen. Daryl and I had done a warm up show in Hershey, Pennsylvania, on February 26th. Then we did a big show at Madison Square Garden in New York with Squeeze and KT Tunstall, who were going to be our tour mates for the 38 city tour that was supposed to happen. And we sold out Madison Square Garden. Everybody was on cloud nine. We thought, what a way to kick off this amazing tour. And a week later, the rug got pulled out from under all of us and it was over. So it was really an amazing, to be up on that, to have this kind of amazing feeling, a high of the band really playing great, with this great stage show and production that we put so much work into, to have it all just disappear was really hard to process. So that being said, got home and I didn't know what was going to happen. And after about a month being home, I came to the realization that, hey, this is real. This is my new reality, and we ain't going nowhere. And I unpacked my bags, which I never really do because I've always got a kind of a travel bag ready to go because I'm on the road all the time. And that was a kind of a symbolic gesture of like, hey, settle in, dude. This is for the long haul. And my wife and I really began to enjoy being home together and spending time and trying to just enjoy a completely different reality. Now, I have not been home for a year in my entire professional life. So from 1972 until now, this is the first time. So it is definitely a whole new thing.
Wow, that's a lot
And
of
then
time.
it's a lot of time. I mean, I'm a touring guy, and when I'm not touring, we travel, we record in places. We go, we visit. We like to do other things. So, point being is that we're home and we settled in. I began to write. I did a bunch of stuff that I hadn't had time for. I fixed up my home studio. I really got it going in a way that I always wanted to, but I never got around to. I began to record at home. I began to write. All these songs kept pouring out. I started listening to a lot of different kinds of music, experimenting with different things on my guitar. And that was really exciting to know that, I at least going to try to make the most of what we were doing at the time. And that was the first step. And the second step was to a good friend of mine who actually spends a lot of time in Hawaii, E.J. Forrester. And he also lives in Aspen, Colorado. And he directed a movie, and he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try to come up with a song for his movie. Oh, wow. And I thought, wow, this is something that never would have happened had I been on tour. Right. So I wrote a song, I submitted it, and he loved it and said, hey, you want to do some more? And ended up doing 4 songs for this new movie called Gringa. It's about it's a great story about a young girl from Southern California whose parents pass away. Her father her mother passes away and her father's living in Mexico. And she goes down to find her father in Mexico. So there's a lot of Hispanic content. And I did a song with a duet with a female from Mexico City. And she and I sang in Spanish, which was totally first time for me. So, kind of cool thing began to happen. And little by little, went back in the studio for a couple of little projects and just tried to embrace being home. Watched a lot of movies on TV, I can tell you that.
Yeah, where those kind of things do help. John, can you get back on your sweet spot? Did you move a little bit as you were talking?
Yeah, is that all right? That's pretty much where I was.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds a little bit. It sounds just for some reason you got a tiny bit more bassy. But so in addition to the massive, obviously it sounds like you've just dug into this first ever in almost 50 years time of being off for so long. And in addition to the massive health and economic toll that we've seen, and we're going to be talking, in fact, about something you're doing that kind of addresses both of those. But there's been a number of well-known musicians that we've lost, John, to the virus. And throughout this series, it's been kind of incredible because so many folks have had a connection to one or two of them and stuff. So, and sometimes people have a connection to none of them. So I'm going to run a couple names by you and see if any of these folks have been by your wheelhouse in one way or another through your life, or if you've got any stories or connections. Adam Schlesinger of Fountains of Wayne, Ellis Marsalis, father of the very talented Marsalis musicians, Toots Hibbert of Toots and the Maytals, John Prine, John Bucky Pizzarelli, Charlie Pride, Lee Konitz, and of course Manu Dibango. Any of these artists that you have connections to, seen in concert, any kind of story or relationship?
Well, the one that's closest to me would be John Prine. First of all, we live very close to each other here in Nashville. Have a lot in common, a lot more than a lot of people would think. When John recorded his first album, his producer was Arif Mardin. Daryl and I were recording our second album, and our producer was Arif Mardin at the Atlantic Studios in New York, where we recorded together at the same time. So a lot of people don't realize that we have we started our careers basically together with the same producer in the same studio. Wow. I was actually on the airplane with John on our way to LA. I was doing another project and he was on his way to receive an honorary Grammy. And this was late January of 2020. And we were sitting directly across from each other on the airplane. And we chatted a little bit. I broke out a car magazine and he said, hey, when you're done with that magazine, can I see it? And I was like, yeah, man, I didn't, you into cars? And he's like, yeah. And we had a lot in common talking about cars and things like that. Just one of America's treasures, one of the great songwriters of all time. And one of the coolest guys. And that was the last time I saw him on the airplane going out to California.
Wow, it gives me chills. And that was just a few months before the crisis began.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's a very, very personal story. And again, it goes all the way back to you were doing your second and he was doing his first. Is that what it was in the studios with Arif Mardin?
That's right. Yep, that's right.
Wow, how powerful! Well, that's what I mean. There's always some unique connections in this thing, and talking about cats like that who are legendary songwriters and singers. One of the ways that you've been moved by the crisis is taking place tomorrow. It's the Oates Songfest 7908. And it'll give folks the chance to offer support to the nonprofit Feeding America. And as you explain what this virtual event tomorrow is, John, also give a little bit of background on the whole Aspen Songwriters Festival that this is sort of named after and related to.
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The whole idea for what we're doing right now started in 2013. My wife and I had moved to Nashville, but we were still spending a lot of time in Aspen, Colorado. And when I got to Nashville, I, got involved with Americana Music, Association and a lot of the players. And we started doing some in the rounds at the world famous Bluebird Cafe. And I thought to myself, Aspen, Colorado's never seen a show like this with songwriters in the round, kind of telling the backstory and things like that. So we put a show like that on for 3 years in Aspen. It was called the Aspen Songwriters Festival. We called it 7908 because that was the altitude of Aspen.
Ah.
And my wife actually saw the sign as we were driving into town, said, "There's a name for your show." So this past summer, we went back to Aspen. And we were walking down the street and ran into the mayor, who happened to be used to work for me as a roadie in my band, believe it or not, small town. And he said to me, "Hey, would you ever consider reviving the Aspen Songwriters Festival?" And I said, "Absolutely." And because it was summertime, we thought, "Hey, maybe March of 21, will be wide open enough to do it live." And of course, as time went on and we got closer to the holidays, we realized that wasn't going to happen. And that's when my wife and I decided, we didn't want to give up on the idea. We said, let's try to do a virtual. Let's see if we can get some musicians together and we'll do a virtual version and see what happens. At the same time, like all of us were, I'm sure, watching news constantly and getting barraged with all the negative stuff that was happening in the world. We had been contributing to feedingamerica.org over the past few years, and we felt it was very important. But then it took on epidemic proportions with, 1 in 6, 1 in 8 families in America not being able to put food on the table and increasing daily unemployment. And we just realized that we just wanted to do more, but we didn't really know what we could do. And then we said, wait a minute, maybe we can combine this, the concept of a virtual songwriting festival with feedingamerica.org. And we literally went online, reached out to feedingamerica.org, spoke to their public relations team, and did a little research on them and found them to be an amazing organization, very transparent, with 98% of the money that they raise goes directly to national food banks, which is phenomenal for a charitable organization. And to be that efficient. And that connection was made. And then we reached out to a production team in New York who I had worked with back in the MTV days. And they helped us because my wife and I realized it was already bigger than we were able to handle. And began to go into our virtual Rolodex and call my friends, musician friends who we had worked with and played with over the years. And we started out by calling a few of the people that actually played in the original Aspen Songwriters Festival. Keb Mo, Sean Colvin, Matt Nathanson, people like that. They jumped on board, and I called Daryl. Daryl got involved, and next thing you know, people started calling us and said, "Hey, we want in. We want to be part of this." And it turned into a really amazing, eclectic, diverse collection of musicians and music. And I'm very proud and really humbled by the fact that none of the artists phoned it in. I mean, they really went out of their way to deliver really interesting and unique performances that are really going to surprise a lot of people. So I can't wait for everyone to check it out.
Wow, you're spawning a few questions in what you're saying. I guess the first one would be, how do you do, and then we're going to run through some of these names for folks because they're very, very
Mhm.
impressive. But
Mhm.
how do you say you reached out with your Rolodex? How do you do it? Like for folks listening, I think they would really dig hearing a little bit of the behind the scenes. Do so you and Amy say, hey, we're going to do this thing. Do you call them yourself? Do you text them? Does your manager do it? Give us a little bit of a peek behind that process.
Yeah, I called and text. I literally, got a hold of Sean Colvin and asked her if she wanted to do it. She said, the first thing she said was, "What are you doing?" I explained it to her. She said, "Sounds great. Count me in." Got a hold of Kev Moe, got a hold of Bob Weir, got a hold of Matt Nathanson, got a hold of Jim James from My Morning Jacket, who he and I have worked together in the past. I've sat in with the band and we curated the Bonnaroo 2013 Super Jam together. And reached out to Sarah Bareilles, who we share the same drummer, and there was a lot of synergy and a lot of kind of connection between all of us. My buddy Jim Lauderdale here in town. My next door neighbor is a guy named Big Kenny from Big and Rich.
Right.
Sammy Hagar. I mean, literally just texted and called people. And next thing you know what happens when you try to do an event like this is the first thing an artist and mostly managers will ask you, well, who else is doing it? They all want to know, are they getting involved with something that's, that's cool or worthwhile? And as soon as we had some major names involved, of course, then the floodgates opened and everyone wanted to be involved. We could, Dave Grohl, I reached out to Dave and he said he would do it. And, little by little, and Michael McDonald, Darius Rucker, Jewel. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's an absolute stunning collection of musicians. And interestingly enough, now that we've got this amazing show put together, I look back at the styles, and it's really everything I like. It's all about diversity. It's about Americana, folk, pop, R&B, blues, rock. It just seems to tick all the boxes. And I didn't intend it that way, but I guess because I like all this music and I like the artists who make this music, it was easy for me to reach out to them.
Yeah, that's cool what you pointed out. It does. I'm looking at a bunch of the names now, and that's interesting what you just said. And it also looks like most of these cats are American too. When I look at
well, they're all American, and that's one of the. I mean, after all, this is an American centric, event.
Sure.
It's all about feeding America, and
Yep.
I could have reached out to a lot of British musicians and other people, but I just felt like here's a chance for American artists to really step up and do something that's that's really it's on a national level. It says it's close to home.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like your own little Woodstock. It's food stock in a way, kind of. 'Cause you look, you look at all these cats who are on there. Now, let's back up a second. One of the guys appearing, sort of an obvious one, and it's super cool for fans, or all of them are cool, but that's Daryl Hall, your partner for decades in Hall & Oates, the guy who's helped you stay on the road for the last 50 years and avoid an entire year off. Now, explain how often you and Daryl have been communicating during the crisis, and without giving everything away, give a little teaser as to how Daryl will be contributing to this musically.
Well, Daryl was one of the first people I reached out to, obviously, and he immediately said yes. He asked me what he got in mind, and I said, look, man, everyone knows us for our hits, and that's probably what people might expect. I said, but here's a chance for you and I to do something different. Let's do something completely different. I said, why don't you do one of your great solo songs, man? Do a song that you don't get a chance to play for people. And I said, because I'm going to do kind of the same thing. And he said, great idea. He said, I love it. And he said, I'm in a Philly Mood, which is a song that he did on a solo album a number of years ago. And quite frankly, one of his best songs, I think. He's written a lot of great songs, but this song is just very, very, it's interesting musically, it's soulful. And he sat down at the piano right in his little studio and just played the song and sang it. And it was really cool when he turned it in because in a way it took me back to when I first met him and how the feeling that I got when I was just sitting in the room with him and he'd just play a song on the piano. And it was that kind of took me back to the earliest days of our relationship and our collaboration. So I loved it, and I was really happy he did that.
That's super cool. And you kind of, by mentioning that, the flip side is, and I read this, and hopefully I didn't read the wrong thing, but I read you're supposedly going to debut a new solo song during this, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee.
Yeah. Well, I got so inspired when people started turning in these incredible songs. I said, man, I got to write something. I got to put something on this show. And I had, when I was in Aspen over the summer, I have a neighbor there, a guy named Joe Henry. There's two Joe Henrys. There's a country music star named Joe Henry. This is not him. This is an author and a poet named Joe Henry, who's written lyrics for John Denver and Frank Sinatra and a whole bunch of people. Anyway, he and I are neighbors, and we've been neighbors out there for 25 years, and we've never collaborated on anything.
Wow.
And I ran into him while I was out in Colorado, and he said, man, he goes, I'd love to write a song with you. And I said, you know what, man, it's been 25 years. I said, let's do it. And we got together, and he had this really cool idea. He had this idea about Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, who were, I don't know if you know or not, you probably do. They were a legendary blues duo who were together for over 40 years. And they didn't really like each other that much, but what they did together was really powerful. But they needed each other. And I found that to be a very evocative concept for many reasons, which you can probably imagine. And we wrote a song together, but it didn't really click as a song, but it was a great idea and concept. And I kind of filed it away for future. And so a month ago, I went back to the idea and I looked at it and I said, the song's not very good, but the idea is phenomenal. And I actually rewrote the entire song using the concept of Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee as a metaphor for reaching a helping hand and trying to, being, that the world needs, the people in the world need each other. So it became more of a larger concept, using them as the subject. And so it'll be the last song on the show. But in addition to that, I am debuting an electronic dance version of Maneater with my co-host Sasquatch.
Now,
have you checked out Sasquatch yet?
I keep seeing his name, and I love the combination of like the Bigfoot reference with the sax. Tell folks a little bit more about this YouTube sensation.
Okay, well, he is an internet sensation. My wife Amy found him on Instagram, and we started following him, and we just loved watching him. Once you see him, you can't stop watching him. And we reached out to him, and we said, man, we ought to do something together. We just thought it would be fun. And he was all about it. He said, yeah, man, let's collaborate. So I said, what about the idea of doing Maneater, thinking, he's a Sasquatch, Maneater. I don't know, it just seemed funny to me. I said, let's do a reggae version. And we did. And it came out really cool. And then his production team, they said, you know what, would you mind if we played around with this track a little bit? And I said, no, man, have at it. Whatever you guys want to do. And they came up with this incredible EDM version of the song. And I loved it. And I said, man, you guys have hit this out of the park. So we have this amazing video, and we're rolling out the EDM version of Maneater, and that'll be in the show as well.
That's some comedy right there. Now, have you played that for Brother Daryl yet to get a little reaction from him?
No, he hasn't heard it.
Okay.
I'm going to surprise him with that one.
So you're going to surprise him with it at the show.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. That's adorable. And that's really cool. And then as we go to wrap it up, looking at that lineup of folks, again, and it's a wide range of folks. It's Daryl Hall, his partner in Hall & Oates, Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters and Nirvana, Michael McDonald, we didn't actually mention his name yet. And then he lives here in Hawaii some of the time. Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish, Sarah Bareilles, Gavin DeGraw, Jewel, Bobby Weir from the Grateful Dead, Sammy Hagar.
Bobby Weir's playing with the Wolf Brothers.
Oh, wow. Right. Cool. Yeah. His latest thing that he's been involved in. Right. And Keb Mo, he said, Sean Colvin, Michael Franti, Big Kenny. Sheila E. is on this too.
Oh, let me tell you something. Sheila E. does a version of Glamorous Life. It's out of sight. It is so good. She rocks it. Trust me, she rocks it.
I have no
And
doubt.
also, just this past week, I got a call from Lyle Lovett, and Lyle Lovett said, "Hey, John, is it too late to get on the song festival?" And I said, "Not for you, man." And so we got Lyle Lovett. He's on board just literally last week, and man, and plus we have all these new artists who a lot of people might not be household names like some of the others, but they're incredible. Melina Moy, she's this hot guitar player from L.A., really a rock guitar player, and she's really great. And this incredible duo called Lewis York, who just moved to Nashville, and they are amazing. This guy Quinn Sullivan, a young blues guitar player who has a great new song. And a great little new band out of a group out of New York called Infinity Song. So we found some new artists to mix in with these classic artists. And it's going to be a very, like I said, entertaining and eclectic show.
And you got Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon. Did I see that?
Yeah, Kevin is not actually, he's playing like a little bit of a song, but he's actually doing a call to action.
Okay.
He's just talking about feeding America. In fact, we have some great celebrities. We have Angie Harmon, the actress. We have Mike Wolf from American Pickers. And Andrew Zimmern, who's the celebrity chef.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just, they're coming on to talk about feedingamerica.org and letting people know how they can, contribute and just giving a little bit more information.
And aside from Daryl, who are these cats? When I went through that list there, who do you go back really far with in terms of, because you guys were sharing bills with people were opening for you were opening for them, you were doing festivals and lots of tours and stuff over decades and decades. And of all these cats, who did you maybe share a bill with, have some sort of interaction with way, way, way back? Was
almost everybody. We forgot to mention one of the real hot artists, Dan and Shay.
Oh.
Dan and Shay. Now, Dan and Shay are probably one of the top pop bands in America right now. And those guys, I've known them for about 7 or 8 years when they first got their first record contract here in Nashville. We were on the same label together, and I've watched them develop into, they're incredible. And they did an acoustic version of their new hit, I Should Probably Go to Bed. I mean, there's so many good moments in this thing. But to answer your question, I mean, Daryl and I toured with Michael McDonald. I sat in with Darius Rucker about 2 years ago at the Ryman Theater here in Nashville. I did a jam cruise with Michael Franti. Jim James, I sat in with Jim James in my morning jacket at Red Rocks, and Jim James and I curated the 2013 Bonnaroo Super Jam together. Matt Nathanson and I have played together. Jim Lauderdale and I have written probably 10 or 15 songs together. Big Kenny and I are next door neighbors. I don't know where to begin. Kev Moe and I have done songs together. Sean Colvin and I have played in Telluride, Colorado. We played in Montana together, in Aspen. We've done acoustic shows together. So here again, it's just, I've had a musical connection to pretty much everyone on the show.
It's going to be huge. Well, it's going to be on display tomorrow, and folks can look for it on nugs.tv. Also, their YouTube channel will be showing the Oates Song Fest 7908, and the 7908 stands for the altitude, right, of that location in Aspen.
Yes, we wanted to include that name as a kind of homage to the original song festival that we did years ago.
And we have fingers crossed, because there's been so much rescheduling. Who knows what will happen in between now and November. But November 9th at the MAC, November 13th at the Blaisdell. You guys are scheduled to come back through town, and then that's going to be full seating and stuff, John. That's not, or is that hasn't? Because these are just rescheduled shows, so you haven't gone and.
We are at the hands of the world, and whatever happens, we keep incrementally pushing these shows back because we don't want to lose them, and we're bound and determined to play live at some point. So, rather than just give up and say, hey, we're not going to go on tour until 2022, we didn't want to do that.
Right.
So hopefully, we'll have people being able to attend the concert. we're ready to go. The moment the green light happens, we're going to be on stage playing.
Well, the nice thing is we get this thing tomorrow, and we'll have a chance to see both Daryl Hall and John Oates, but separately, and playing some solo stuff, and really looking forward to this thing, Brother John. And it's great that you're doing this all to give away the dough to help support Americans who are hungry and suffering and struggling through this mess. So it's a real feel-good thing. And I'm giving you one final question I've been curious about. So during all of this, you have as people who have heard John's previous appearances on the show know, John loves animals, and John's wife really loves them. And they had a menagerie of, what's that giant bird? It's not an ostrich or an emu, or is it an emu?
They were emus. We had about 11 of them at one time. We don't have them anymore. When we started spending a lot of time in Nashville, we couldn't keep all the animals in Colorado, so we adopted them out to homes, and they're actually all around the valley where we live in Colorado. So we can see them actually. A couple of them are in petting zoos, a couple of them are on private ranches. But yeah, we adopted them all out, and they're doing pretty good.
First guy in the Off the Road series who had 11 emus, I've got to say.
That's right. There you go.
Hope you had fun today doing this, John. It was great having you back on.
Well, I appreciate it, Dave. You're always a good person to talk to, and appreciate you spreading the word, and can't wait for everyone to see the show.
Fingers crossed. Looking forward to the debut of this new jam tomorrow, the reworked Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee that you're going to be dropping in.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget EDM Maneater, too.
Yeah, right. It's a shame you can't have like a camera. You know how they do those reaction videos on YouTube? It'd be great to have a camera on Daryl's face as you're playing that one on the air.
There might be. You never know what's going to happen.
That would be cool. Man, seriously, very gentle and safe hugs and high fives. It's always great to talk to you, cuz it's been so long that we've been doing these over 10 years together.
That's amazing, isn't it? Well, good. I'm glad. It's nice to have good long-term relationships.
Yep, it's fantastic. So stay safe, and I'm rooting you a lot of success with this. It's inspiring. You're doing something good. All the people we've talked to, you're the first one who's put together something so selfless during this time. So it's
thanks, man. We're real proud of what we've done. It's been a lot of hard work, trust me, but it's all worth it. So
it's touching. Well, be good, and we'll talk. Hopefully, but when if these shows are going to make it to reality, hopefully we can get you on right before the November dates if they're going to go forward.
You got it, man. Great to talk to you.
Take care. Aloha, John.
Okay, all the best, bud.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. Aloha, my friends. It's John Oates of Hall & Oates. It's that time of year again. I'm back to support HPR. It's always great to be part of the show with my buddy, Dave Lawrence. And I'm sending a huge mahalo to all of our members. And if you're able, please take a moment right now and join. Whatever you can afford, we're grateful for your support. Here's how to do it, and I'll catch you again soon. Stay safe, y'all, and a hui ho.